And welcome into Real Deal Sports Talk with me, KP. Alright, welcome in. It's Saturday morning. Thanks for getting up and spending your time with me this morning, checking in some sports, seeing what I think, and, bouncing your head off the walls when I say something stupid. It's Saturday morning. NFL opened up on Thursday. We'll have we'll preview week 2 of the college football season today. I'm going to talk about the Thursday night NFL game for sure. We'll break that down, and I'll let you know what I think of that. We'll preview tomorrow's games in the NFL and the games that are coming up on Monday night as well. Then we'll get to some other, just random headlines and stories and topics that are out there floating around in the sports world. Some things that have hit on things that we've talked about in previous shows and where they're at now. And just other things that are going on that, caught my eye and I feel like I want to talk about. So let's go ahead. We'll get into it. We'll get into, Thursday night's game. Denver Broncos, Carolina Panthers. People were billing it as a sequel. People were billing it as a rematch. What it was the first game of the NFL season. I agree with all of the people out there that say, look, this is not a rematch. Nobody gets to take home another trophy. The title does not change hands. It's not the same teams. There's different players involved. The motivation in week 1 is different than what it is in the Super Bowl. So with that being said, not to harp on that too much because it's been beat to death this week coming into that game, whether or not this was a rematch. I have to say, I was very unimpressed overall with the football from both teams. It looked like a third preseason game. And this is something I talked about with you guys last time. Because college football's week for opening weekend was so good. Not just because of all the great matchups that they happen to have this year, but college football players come ready to play. They hit. They do two-a-days. They are physical. And, I get the idea that at the level of the NFL, with the money that's involved, with everything that's at stake financially, they're trying to work things in a certain way for long-term, money. I get that. It's a business. But here's the thing. The NFL are the ones who promoted the big hit videos that were so popular when I was a kid. That showed guys leaving their feet. That showed guys not using proper technique. That popularized that style of game. And yes, those are oohs and ahs. It's like, what? It's a car accident. I get that. I watched some of those videos. But it's just at the point where they need to do something because you can't have the first few weeks of the regular season looking like preseason games. All the turnovers, the mistakes, the poor tackling for both teams. Neither one of those teams played their best football that night. Denver pulled it out 21-20 because of a missed field goal, because they gave up a 4th and 21. It was amazing they were even in the game at that point with as bad as they played the entire first half. Chris Anderson had a good game. Their rookie punter, Dixon, I don't know why they chose him. He's not better than the guy they had. But for them to come back from 10 down and win, that says a lot about the Broncos. It also says a lot about where the Panthers are right now. It says a lot about where they are as a team to be up that much against a team that's playing horribly, not tackling, turning the ball over every time they get close to the end zone. And not only do you let them come back, but they beat you. That says a lot about what the Panthers got going on. And like I said last year, they're not a great team. They have a very athletic, very big quarterback. But he's a simple quarterback. He can run it, and he can throw it real far and real hard. But he's not a multiple read guy. They run a very simple offense, and they have to play mistake-free to win, and that didn't happen. They didn't play a perfect game. They didn't win. Janovich, the rookie fullback, I was impressed with him. That 28-yard touchdown run, great run. He looked shocked and surprised when he broke free. He picked up some nice blocks, especially against Thomas Davis. Cam Newton acted like a baby most of the game unless he was doing something that was me, and then he got to dance and show off. Now, after the game, I'll give him a little respect because after the game he did say, look, we didn't lose because I got hit in the head or because they didn't make those calls or throw those flags. That's not why we lost the game. I like to hear that from Cam. I was impressed by that comment. Were there some hits to the head? Yeah. But what are you supposed to do as a defender when you go to make the tackle at one level, and by the time you make contact with the ball carrier or the quarterback or whoever it is, they've ducked down into your strike path? You can't defy physics to not make contact at that point. At some point, they got to start using that rule and go, you know what, he couldn't have done anything. That guy ducked down. Unintentional, play on. Hopefully you're healthy. Hopefully nothing bad happened. But we can't just be calling it. Hello, hello, hello.
What up?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All right, Chris. So, week 1, college football. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Phenomenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, sum it up for us, bud. Sum it up.
Well, I don't remember a time where any sporting weekend or event was hyped so much that there was no way that it could have exceeded expectations, right? It was all going to be a big old letdown, blowout. But not only did it exceed expectations of all that hype, it blew past all those expectations, and it was so glorious to kick off the weekend that way. I mean, it was amazing. The Texas-Notre Dame game was unbelievable.
Right.
A block extra point to run it back to tie the game, to send it into overtime. Are you kidding me? And then the way that Ole Miss lost 2 guys, was up 28-6, and the way that Florida State made adjustments to come back and win. I mean, these guys scored over 40 points each.
Right.
I mean, you saw redshirt quarterbacks, freshman quarterbacks, guys who'd never thrown a pass. This is their first college game, and coaching staffs getting them ready to play and just sling it all over the field. And then you got, other coaches and coaching staffs and quarterbacks that struggled and didn't look like they knew what they were doing still.
Yeah, I agree. The week 1 was, I mean, if you're a football fan and you didn't get an opportunity to watch football last weekend, I feel very sad for you.
Right. It was amazing. It was amazing. And if you saw in our week-to-week post that we put out at the start of the season, we had the upset alert, put Western Michigan on there, Northwestern. And I know Christian McCaffrey had those runs and all, but like we said last week, K-State, they showed they still got a defense. They could make some noise.
They sure did. I mean, I expected honestly that his numbers would be a little higher. He still had the impressive game, the one kick return that was called back. But yeah, K-State showed me a little something. It looks like that Big 12 might be a little physical this year again.
That's good.
Going into week 2, do you think week 2 is going to live up to week 1?
No, and I don't think it necessarily has to. It's kind of it's that weekend after Thanksgiving.
There you go.
You got to get a little break. You got to catch your breath a little bit because week 3 has some phenomenal games coming up too. So it's a nice sandwich. It's got some spectacle in there. It's got some decent games, but it's nothing like week 1. That was amazing.
Yeah. So Tennessee's got Vodtech this week. What are the chances Tennessee bounces back and shows a little something to back up that preseason ranking they had?
Well, they kind of have to, right? I mean, that line struggled all night against Appalachian State for Tennessee. Dobbs, was mostly contained. I mean, you've got to be able to throw the medium and long-range balls better than that. I mean, that's always been his issue. I mean, there's red flags, from Tennessee, but they got to get more explosive in the air and in open space. The Hokies, they're strong on defense. I mean, you would expect that with Bud Foster, who was persuaded to stay by the new head coach, Justin Fuente.
Mm-hmm.
They're both masters at scheming pressure. And so it might spell some pressure for that Volunteer offense.
Okay.
And you'd hate to say that a non-conference game, and especially for Tennessee, that this is a must-win. I mean, their goal is to win the SEC East, but this is going to be a key measuring stick, not just for Tennessee, but also for Virginia Tech. That's going to make for one heck of a spectacle at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Definitely potential for maybe game of the weekend here.
Yeah, it's the novelty of that. It might have been game of the week without it, but you throw in all the peripheral stuff, and it's the spectacle to see. You got to tune in.
Right. All right, here's one, kind of a interstate thing with Penn State and Pitt. Now, we all know Penn State's been struggling since the whole Sandusky with all the nonsense that's gone on since then. Is Penn State ready to start really, doing something there in the Big Ten?
That's kind of hard. I mean, you're talking about a team that had that is attempting to rebuild post those NCAA sanctions and to break out of that rut, to be a Big Ten contender again. Say that 5 times.
Right.
And with James Franklin, I mean, he's talked a big game about dominating the state in recruiting, and he needs this win, I would think, because those sanctions. I mean, this is now where you start to see those sanctions take effect, and this is where you start to that rebuilding process now. And I don't know if Nittany Lion fans are patient enough to wait that long.
Okay. So how do you see this game playing out overall?
Well, the Dirt Cannon AI, he's got a name. We've called him DC3PO, and each week when we put together the games of the week, and we put his win probability and score in there, and he's got Pittsburgh 28, Penn State 19 with a win probability of 72.3%.
All right.
And just if you're curious, for Tennessee, Virginia Tech, DC3PO has Tennessee 29, Virginia Tech 10, with a Tennessee win probability of 72.5%.
That is good to know. Tennessee should bounce back this week. All right.
Talent too.
Here's one that I find interesting just because I think it's going to be a blowout. The Arkansas TCU game. I expect TCU to just throw it all over them.
Well, to quote my good buddy Lee Corso, who I've never met, not so fast, my friend.
Okay.
You've got both Arkansas and TCU used to be the Southwest Conference rivals up until that conference disbanded in '91. And back then Arkansas was the big dog in that, and TCU wasn't. Well, 25 years later, Arkansas has moved to the SEC. TCU has finally found themselves in the Big 12, but TCU also finds themselves as probably the more powerful program 25 years later. And if you remember, Arkansas had those kind of heated rivalry games with Texas Tech and those stylistic clashes and blowouts and shootouts and things like that. And even though TCU survived a shootout with South Dakota State of all teams, this defense for TCU is a lot deeper. And the transfer from Texas A&M, Kenny Hill, with Arkansas's offense and stuff like that, they couldn't even crack 300 total yards against La Tech. DC3PO finds this as a really close game,